Revelation chapter 12. Christ versus Satan. Revelation chapter 12 marks the beginning of the third section of the book of Revelation. In a sense, it covers the same ground as chapters 4 to 11, but with a difference. The conflict is now seen from the standpoint of God himself, not merely as a struggle on the part of the saints against the world, nor as the dispossession by the executor, Jesus Christ, of the false heirs to the kingdom. The battle is between Christ and Satan, and the conflict between the true heirs and the false heirs is an aspect of this greater battle. This is, therefore, the major section of the book. Here we see the dimension, scope, and direction of Christian history more clearly. Without this viewpoint, the perspective could easily have been perverted. It is a temptation of men, including Christians, to moralize Christianity, to see the struggle as one between good and bad, between love and hate, between good people and wicked people. All other religions are moralistic. They reduce religion to the dimensions of man and his man-centered moral concerns. Christianity is hostile to moralistic religion, and this section of Revelation is designed to make a moralistic interpretation of Christianity impossible. It is very easy for men to feel good and holy. Self-righteousness is a basic part of man's original sin. It is easy to, quote, get religion, end quote, by approving of love, honesty, fidelity, and other virtues. There is not a man living who does not believe in these things in some sense and desire them for himself and for others. Non-Christian religions make it easy for man to be moral. If in his heart man harbours hatred, he of course does so with good, quote, moral, end quote, reasons. If man is not honest, it is because he has very good reasons to be otherwise. If he lacks faithfulness, it is because this was the righteous thing for him to do under the circumstances, because faithfulness would have been foolish or immoral in view of his wife's nature, the needs of the moment, the requirements of the situation. All men are in favour of morality. The question is, whose morality? The morality of situation ethics is not the morality of the Bible, nor can biblical ethics be equated with those of any other religion. All men are for morality of a kind. Thus, when MRA, moral rearmament or Buckmanism, sought to organize the world before World War II in favour of morality, it gained the backing of such diverse persons as Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Admiral Tojo, and the Nazi hierarchy. Every last one of them favoured moralism. Moralism is a religion of self-deceit and self-righteousness. Men who preach love and virtue too much are dangerous men from the biblical perspective, in that they proclaim a morality which is not grounded in the absolute law of God, nor motivated by the new man in Jesus Christ. All moralistic religion and all moralistic preaching and teaching encourages hypocrisy. Christian preaching destroys it. It would have been easy for the troubled Christians of John's day to take refuge in moralism and find comfort therein against the wickedness of Rome. Their morality seemed obviously far superior to Roman morality. But the ground of the Christian's strength is not in his morality, but in Jesus Christ, and the Christian's true morality is the outworking of his salvation. The battle is revealed by Revelation chapter 12 to be between Christ and Satan. The governing power, therefore, is not of man, and hence moralism is out of the question. We are given a picture of a woman clothed with the sun, clearly a cosmic figure. She is the true church of God in every age, cosmic in its government and therefore in its scope, because Christ is the head of the church. The church is described in symbols denoting sovereignty under God, with images derived from Joseph's dream: sun, moon, and stars. Genesis chapter 37, verse 9. Through the true people of God, Christ originally came into the world, and through them he continues to come into the world. True, while this incident reflects also the historical event, the nativity of Jesus Christ, it reveals even more the continuing event from the first to the second coming, the bringing forth of Christ to the world. W. Boyd Carpenter very ably described this fact. There is an anguish of the church which Christ laid upon her. It is the law of her life that she must bring forth Christ to the world. It is not simply that she must encounter pain, but that she cannot work deliverance without knowing suffering. This the apostles felt. The love of Christ constrained them. Woe it would be to them if they did not preach the gospel. Necessity was laid upon them. They spoke of themselves as travailing in birth over their children till Christ was formed in them. This, then, is a picture. The church fulfilling her destiny even in pain. The work was to bring forth Christ to men, and never to be satisfied till Christ was formed in them. That is, till the Spirit of Christ and the teaching of Christ and the example of Christ were received, loved, and obeyed, and men transformed to the same image, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. But there was to be opposition. The enemy is on the watch to destroy the likeness of Christ wherever it was seen. The dragon, chapter 12, verse 3, verse 9 and verse 13, is clearly identified as Satan, the slanderer, and his point of origin, heaven. In the Old Testament, he is sometimes used to represent Egypt. Isaiah chapter 51, verse 9, Ezekiel chapter 29, verse 3, out of whom Israel had come in order to become the people of God, that is, forsaking the principle of autonomy for obedience to the covenant God. Satan's unrelenting purpose is the destruction of Christ and his church. Against this persecution, the people of God find refuge. Verse 6, in a place prepared of God for 1,260 days, or 42 months. This same period is described in verse 14 as a time, and times, and half a time. That is, 3½ years, again 42 months. Satan is filled with wrath because he knows that against the backdrop of eternity, his time is very short. The war in heaven, described in verses 7 to 10, and the casting out of Satan signal the great victory accomplished by Christ in his sacrifice on Calvary. Satan's claim on sinful man was broken by the substitutionary sacrifice of Christ. The elect are delivered from Satan's power. The saints overcome Satan by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Verse 11. The dragon pursues the people of God and seeks to destroy them. Failing to destroy Christ, Satan seeks to destroy Christ's people. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. Verse 15. The delusions coming from his mouth are every kind of false doctrine and teaching, every delusion of religion and science whereby men try to infiltrate and destroy the true Church of God. But verse 16 reveals that such attempts are frustrated. The earth, that is, the world apart from Christ, so welcomes these delusions that the dragon's flood of falsity only overwhelms his own people, while the true church is delivered into safety by God. As C.H. Little expressed it, to the earth and its earth dwellers, the river of delusion spewed out of his mouth by the devil was so welcome that it was at once absorbed, while the church, on her powerful eagle wings, flies away so swiftly that these waters do not reach her. This outpouring of delusions is continuous and is not limited to any particular time or event in the history of the church. Again, it is clear that we cannot force chronology onto Revelation. We do not have a sequence of before and after events, but a description of events or states of warfare which characterize the Christian era. The dragon is described as having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his head. Verse 3. In Daniel's vision, the 7 heads were divided among the 4 beasts, while here, at their source, they are seen in one total concentration of evil. The 4 empires of Daniel represented the power here seen in all its nakedness and in all its pretension. for the numbers 7 and 10 are symbols of fullness and totality, and Satan, in claiming fullness and totality, is challenging God's title to the same. In drawing a third part of the stars of heaven in his attempt to destroy the church and her Redeemer, Satan uses the powers of this world, the stars, in his efforts to overwhelm and destroy the true people of God. In this he fails, and the church is nourished because of this opposition. Verse 14, and so he seeks to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Verse 17, the true church is not destroyed by Satan's efforts. The false church can be captured and made a tool of autonomous man's pretensions, but the true church, the remnant of God, although the object of warfare, cannot be destroyed. In verse 5, Christ is described as the one who comes to rule the nations with a rod of iron. Buse notes, rule means literally shepherd. The words come verbatim from Psalm 2, which is evidently messianic. Thou art my son, this day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Verses 7 to 9.